Today what I want to cover is a little bit about how to get better at and improve your setup, primarily through setting up your top roll, learning how to create possibilities in arm wrestling. There's a lot of ways you can look at arm wrestling. One of the ways is you can think about there's phases in the arm wrestling game. One of the phases is before they say go. What makes this time special is you are in no danger of being pinned. And there is at times pressure being exerted, and there are positions being established. The main reason that people do what's called the top roll technique in arm wrestling, the top roll is typically thought of as attacking the hand or going through a person's fingers on the route to beating your opponent. This is typically thought of as one of the paths of least resistance for most people. The reason why the top roll is good when done effectively is when thinking about the hand itself, it allows you to use more musculature when set up correctly against less musculature. One of the goals of outside arm wrestling is to be able to use your arm into your opponent's hand when they have started to hold on to you, and then combine your arm strength with your hand into only their hand. And when you can do this, you have technically pulled off a top roll very well. So one of the ways I think about arm wrestling is classifying what I would think of as creative strengths, which can at times also be destructive, but most of the times these strengths are what lead you to greater possibilities and greater efficiencies. Done primarily in the setup and whenever a match stops or you have a second to breathe. These are the times when you really want to think about these strengths. Just to make it simple, I want to do like 3 exercises. I want to be clear that every single way that you get stronger on the arm wrestling table is going to help you both technically and across a broad domain of techniques. So the more you can do this, it's still going to affect your ability to top roll better. But what I want to talk about today is just the specific 3 best lifts for increasing your ability to get a better grip and to set up your top roll better. The first thing I would talk about is rising, okay? And what rising is just your ability to climb your hand up. And I would say that this is probably one of the most important strengths in arm wrestling, especially outside of the strap. But this strength will dictate who's holding on to who, and it will dictate efficiency to a very high degree. With a belt, one of the best ways to do it is just to put your hand through, wrap so that the belt is in between your punching and first knuckle, and do some kind of a motion like this, either with movement or lock and drive through. Ideally use a pulley on a table exactly the way you would in a match, or you can do it off the floor. Now when you do it off the floor, try not to stand up too upright. It's actually better to lean over and to mimic the angle that you would have on the table a little bit closer. So this is basically your number one thing to create possibilities in a top roll. It will, if you have more of this pressure, it will almost always mean the other person has to hold on to you. So that's kind of exercise number 1 for me. This can be done with a towel as well, very easily, same idea. And you can move the towel both down and up into your hand for, you know, a little bit of different angles, combining a little bit of pressures into pronating and supinating. The next pressure I would talk about when it comes to creating possibilities is supination while rising. A lot of times when we talk about supinating, we're talking about bringing the shoulder forward, but supinating can also be done while rising. And this, to me, is what will cause a lot of the slip, especially when both people are trying to rise and both people are trying to get that regrip. A little bit of supination can allow you to be just a little bit further away. A lot of what rising is, a lot of what creation is just the ability to stay a little bit away from your opponent. A lot of supination can be done through the thumb. A lot of the times when you come to the table and you open your hand to set a grip, one of the last things you want to do is close your thumb. When you have an open thumb, what that does is when your opponent goes to take a grip, they have less an ability to put their hand where they want it. Okay? Your ability to keep your thumb open and to even see your palm is going to make the opponent's hand not be as far around you. This is going to make your hand slide up their palm, which is exactly what you want to do every time you have the ability to regrip or in the setup before they have the ability to pin you. One of the best ways to do this, again, is with a martial arts belt. And all I do is I put my thumb through like so. And I will do my lifts like this. Alright, I can do it off the floor. And all it is a slight supination with a bicep curl. This is a delicate exercise for a lot of people, but your ability to rise and bring the match inside your body is going to create so many possibilities for you then to transition into a roll while being further up your opponent's hand. So this is how you create your top roll. Rising while supinating. The last strength that I'll talk about for creation in a outside sense primarily is the kickback. Now, kickback can be used many ways. Kickback can be used against any opponent who's giving up their pronation while they're attacking you. That's in like a hard counter system. But a lot of times as well, you'll have a post going on and you will end up in a bent back position. Okay? And it's whoever can climb over while maintaining their post. You're not necessarily using this strength so much to establish it. You're just holding on to your post while your wrist gets bent back. But there are times when you are in the middle, you are driving upwards, and your ability to just bend your wrist back just slightly is going to force your opponent to hold on to you or to initiate a slip. So this strength can be very vital technically in the setup and any time a match stops. So the way I typically train this is with this. Alright, it's got some foam there, piece of metal and a screw, but you can get creative. You can do this with anything. And I try and focus a lot on my lead knuckle. So I do something like this. Okay, this kind of thing. And that translates into, you know, you're here, and just that pop, just that little kickback is it's gonna get you further away from the person. It's gonna be higher. Okay, so when you talk about height in arm wrestling, being far away from somebody, you know, this upwards drive, this supination, this kickback, all these motions, this sets up all of that. Okay, so that's how I kind of classify it, and I understand that there's many exercises you can do, and every exercise is going to help you to do everything. Like, they all absolutely work together, but basically when you think of creation in arm wrestling, it's an opening, it's a giving away of so many of the things that most people think are so vital. Most people want to hold on to their wrist. Most people want to hold on to their pronation. But when setting it up, you need to be able to give it away, especially when you're in no danger of being pinned. Okay? The art of charity. Hope you guys got something from this. Hope you're all feeling good and staying hydrated. Turn and burn.